Welcome to CineCynics.
I'm Craig,
I'm Mark.
and today's episode is brought to you by cool, crisp Red Apple cigarettes.
Red Apple cigarettes. Smoke them if you got them.
So being that there's not that much movie news out this week, we figured that we're gonna rant about why people should not speak during a movie.
It's not your living room.
Yeah, I went to go to see this movie. I paid money to see this movie. If I wanted commentary, I'd buy the fucking DVD.
Trust me, whatever you have to say is not remotely interesting and can certainly wait till the movie is finished.
Oh, especially when they start saying things that are happening on screen, like little subtitles that said 1880s or 2 years before the Civil War, and then they repeat! And then they repeat what's on the screen, like we're all fucking idiots. But apparently the person that's actually saying it is the idiot.
It just happened 5 seconds ago. I know what's going on, but maybe because these people have the attention span of an ant, they need to be reminded so they can keep following along with the movie.
Oh, and they like to yell out, hey, oh, what's that? Oh, and they ask their boyfriend, like, oh, what's that? Shut up! This is probably the first time you're seeing the movie, and you're asking him, what's that? Come on, process it!
I don't know who raised these people, that they have absolutely no consideration for anybody around them. But I really feel that theaters should start instituting a stricter policy about no interruptions during the movie. And in fact, where we live in New York City, Uptown, I believe around 103rd Street and Broadway, they're actually opening up a new branch of the Alamo Draft House. And I can't wait till that opens, because that's exactly what their policy is. You open your mouth even once, and they throw you out during the movie.
Yeah, that's awesome, and they really should be doing that, especially when people's cell phones are going off. When there were three bumpers before the movie that said turn your cell phone off, and they still didn't turn their cell phone off.
You don't have to turn it off. Just put it on vibrate, if not silence it altogether. I mean, just even a modicum of consideration. They've been playing these bumpers for 10 years now about silencing your cell phones during movies. I don't understand how they can't get the message by now.
Yeah, they talk, kick them out. Cell phone goes off, kick them out. They breathe funny, kick them out.
Well, that just about does it. So thank you for taking the time to listen to our feelings on this matter.
And just remember, shut the fuck up.
Having the genre of westerns in mind for this week's Watch It, the film I'm going to recommend is Dances with Wolves, directed by and starring Kevin Costner. Set during the American Civil War, the film focuses on the life of First Lieutenant John Dunbar, an officer in the Union Army. After performing an act of bravery in battle, Dunbar receives a citation for his bravery, along with being awarded a horse and his choice of a new posting away from the fighting. He elects to be transferred to Fort Sedgwick, an outpost on the American western frontier which Dunbar himself longs to see before it disappears as the nation expands. Arriving to find his new station abandoned and in a wanton state of disrepair, he sets about the task of making the necessary repairs to restore the fort to working order. Before long, Dunbar is brought into contact with a tribe of the native Sioux people. Their initial interactions are less than copacetic, but they eventually form a peaceful understanding with one another and later on a friendship. Dunbar comes to see the extraordinary beauty of their lifestyle and adopts their ways and customs as their own, learning their language, taking a wife from among them, and living with the tribe. This eventually brings Lieutenant Dunbar into conflict with his own people, when a detachment of Union Army soldiers later arrives at Fort Sedgwick to find it once again unoccupied. The sheer breadth and scope of Dances with Wolves sets it apart from nearly every other movie in the Western genre. From the rolling golden expanses of the American prairie, to vast roaming herds of bison as far as the eye can see, and the excitement that follows as they bolt off on a thunderous stampede when the Sioux people give chase to them, this truly is a captivating film to behold. And like the recent Django Unchained by Quentin Tarantino, this was virtually the first film of its genre to deal with certain uncomfortable subject matters that had gone more or less unaddressed in movies. It shed the tired old Hollywood stereotype of the noble savage and brought a real sense of humanity to its Native American characters by the brilliant performances of Wes Studi, Floyd Red Crow Westerman, Graham Greene, among many other very talented American Indian actors. Unbeknown to some, Dances with Wolves was actually remade some years later as The Abysmal Avatar, which changed the setting from the American frontier to a planet in outer space. It was a pale shadow of the original that lacked all depth and originality. If you're one of the lucky few that have yet to subject themselves to the horrific banality of that movie, do yourself an enormous favor and skip it, in favor of watching Dances with Wolves instead. The awe-inspiring beauty of this masterpiece of American cinema will not leave you unsatisfied.
I absolutely love westerns, so I had to recommend one of my favorites, Silverado. Written and directed by Lawrence Kasdan, stars Kevin Kline, Kevin Costner, Danny Glover, and Scott Glenn as cowboys traveling to the town of Silverado. Every character is real and the stakes are high for each one. The amazing cinematography, direction, and writing by Lawrence Kasdan makes him one of the best filmmakers of his age. His involvement with the original Star Wars trilogy and the new ones that are coming out in 2013 solidifies that he can make likable, three-dimensional characters for any genre. I can't even begin to tell you how much I love this movie. The fundamentals of this movie shine as a great, character-driven film with a wonderful story that transcends its own genre. If you love westerns, rent it, Netflix it, I don't care what you do, watch this movie, you're gonna love it.
Django Unchained, written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, starring Jamie Foxx, Leonardo DiCaprio, Christoph Waltz, Samuel L. Jackson, and Kerry Washington, tells the tale of Django, a freed African-American slave turned bounty hunter who poses as a black slaver in order to save his still-in-bondage wife from her ruthless master, Calvin J. Candy. So like pretty much anything Quentin Tarantino has ever done, Django Unchained is pretty fantastic.
Oh, I definitely have to agree. This is probably one of his best. And just the amount of storytelling and just, he always writes great dialogue. You can't go to a Quentin Tarantino movie without expecting just smooth, sexy, just spot-on dialogue.
He really is one of the great dialogue writers of our time. There's so much coming at you at once that usually it takes at least 2 to 3 and usually even more showings before you get the full richness of all of it.
Oh yeah, especially with Kill Bill, I had to see twice to really enjoy it. Kill Bill Part 2. Definitely Pulp Fiction. The first time I saw Pulp Fiction, I really didn't get it. But then, like, the second time, I was like, wow, this movie is awesome. It's so good. And, yeah, I have to agree with you on that. You have to watch it multiple times just for it to all sink in.
And the way that he fleshes out all of his characters, I always end up feeling like I've not quite seen anything like them before in movies. They're all reminiscent of this character from that movie or the other, or this actor or that one, but they're all extremely unique in their own idiosyncratic way. You've not quite seen anything like that specific character in any movie before.
Especially the character of King Schultz, played by Christoph Waltz. He just did a complete 180 and played a completely different character from Inglourious Basterds, which was an evil son of a bitch, to pretty much, he was a good guy.
He starts off as this character who's completely in for himself, as this bounty hunter who, as he says in the movie, delivers corpses for money, but he ends up developing this friendship with Django and wants to do right by him.
And talking about Jamie Foxx, he was really good. I know that they were in talks with Will Smith to play that role, but I can't imagine anybody but Jamie Foxx playing that role now after seeing him perform that. It was pretty great. Like, you really understood that he was this broken down slave with just so many things going against him, but he still moves past the obstacles and pretty much does whatever he wants.
Yeah, I don't think, as much as I like Will Smith, I don't think Cool Willie would have had the depth to take on this role.
Cool Willie.
Leonardo DiCaprio plays the role of the sinister plantation owner, Calvin J. Candy, and I have to say, I never would have thought him to be this good in the role of the villain.
Oh, yeah. Because we've always seen him as a good guy. In all of the movies that he's done, he's always been a good guy, but he was just so damn good. You love to hate him.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can put it. He just had this, like, swagger about himself, and just the way he delivered his lines with this southern gentry type. Like, he did a phenomenal job. If he doesn't win, he should at least get nominated for that role. He did an amazing job.
He only gets better with age, it seems, and he was just oozing with slime. He epitomized everything that was just evil and soulless about the slave culture in the South 150 years ago.
And like always, Sam Jackson was just playing an older version of himself. I mean, he just pretty much has that same energy for all of his roles that he does. So I can't complain about his role, but it's nothing new that I've seen from Sam Jackson.
I actually thought Samuel L. Jackson was really good in this movie because he also plays a character we don't normally see him in. Not quite a villain, but he plays this sort of Uncle Tom character who sells himself out to his master for better treatment than the rest of the slaves.
Yeah, and you wouldn't expect him to play that kind of role because he's always this badass African-American guy that you can relate to and you just want him to, just be badass. That's pretty much what Sam Jackson plays all the time. And for him to go into this certain type of role is actually a challenge for him because he's never played that type of role.
Yeah, it's completely a deviation from any other movie he's ever done. And also, like everything else Quentin Tarantino's ever done, this film was shot beautifully.
Oh, yeah. It was so indicative of that type of spaghetti western. I know it's a southern, but he just fully captured it. The crash zooms into people's faces, looking, and just the big, broad landscape shots of people traveling. And
he just
also...
Go ahead.
Well, also the long shots used in dialogue. Like I know he uses it a lot in his other movies, but that's not something you typically see a lot now because we have such progressive movement with nowadays with filmmakers that we can get in tight, we can get in medium, and not keep that long shot because sometimes the long shot isn't as interesting as when you get more intimate with the character. But just seeing that puts you back in that certain time period when those type of movies were being made, and it made the movie better for it, I think, because he's such a filmmaker's filmmaker.
He has a way of expressing things on screen that no other director seems quite as capable of doing. He has a way of making women always seem attractive, food always seeming more enticing, and gore always seeming gorier.
Leia, let's talk about the gore. There was a lot of blood used in this movie. I think he uses the old traditional style of just filling a condom and bursting it open. That style. A lot of Asian cinema uses that style. A lot of Japanese film that I've seen. And there was some parts where it was just like, did that need to happen? But it still was very pleasurable to watch that.
Normally, I'm not too big a fan of things that are overly gratuitous, but for some reason with Quentin Tarantino, I make an exception because he always finds somehow, I don't necessarily use the word tasteful, but he somehow manages to work it in such an appropriate way that you can't question his vision.
And also something that he did in this movie that he really hasn't done in a lot of other movies except maybe Jackie Brown was that there was no out-of-sequence storytelling. There was some flashbacks to when he was a slave and other flashbacks, and it was told linearly, if that can be a word.
And also, it wasn't broken up into the normal chapter-style format he always seems to like when telling his stories.
And like all Quentin Tarantino movies, he just uses music so well, and he doesn't ever have a composer. He doesn't do that. He just picks tracks from other movies, from like Sergio Leone movies, and he does an amazing job.
This movie did have a few tracks composed by the legendary Italian filmmaker Ennio Morricone, who's also famously known for doing the Man with No Name trilogy, and most famously of them, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So he took the most iconic composer for the spaghetti western movies and used him to glorious effect in this one.
Oh yeah, and he used like modern music in some of the scenes, and it worked perfectly. He just knows how to use music. And I think in an interview he said that sometimes he actually has the music set out for a scene before he even shoots it or storyboards it.
Throughout watching this movie, I was consistently thinking to myself that Quentin Tarantino was about the only director who's capable of telling a story like this. He took these elements from our past, these shameful, dark elements, and was able to make it palatable, but at the same time intertwine this sense of humor about it as well.
I have seen every Quentin Tarantino movie, and I have to say, I think that Django Unchained is his best movie so far. I truly believe that it was even better than Inglourious Basterds, and I thought Inglourious Basterds was a great movie.
I don't know if I would say just yet it was his very best. I think I need to see it a further few times before I can make that judgment, but I do think it easily ranks among his very top, in which I would also put Inglourious Basterds in that category, as I thought that was an unfairly criticized movie.
Django Unchained had a lot of things going for it. Great acting, story, cinematography, wonderful use of blood,
and a style of delivery that only Quentin Tarantino could do.
Django Unchained is another great movie of 2012, and I believe it's nominated for a couple of Golden Globes for, I think, performance of Christoph Waltz, and a few other things for it. So it should be in the Oscars, definitely. And what should we give this movie? Should we watch it?
See it. See it. Like everything else Quentin Tarantino has ever done or will do, see it.
Definitely see it.
If you like CineCynics, rate, comment, and subscribe.
And stay tuned every Saturday for more movie news, recommendations, and reviews.
And the question this week is, what are your favorite westerns or films directed by Quentin Tarantino?